He was the heavyweight champion of the world. He was 25 years old. He was the most famous athlete on the planet. He was undefeated, and he was about to give all of it away. In April of 1967, Muhammad Ali, born Cassius Clay in Louisville, Kentucky, the son of a sign painter, walked into the military induction ceremony in Houston, Texas, and refused to step forward when his name was called. He refused once. He refused twice. He refused 3 times. The room was silent. The officer told him that refusal to be inducted was a federal crime. Ali said nothing. He had already said everything he needed to say. Earlier that year, when reporters had asked him about the draft notice, he had given them the line that would follow him for the rest of his life. "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong. No Viet Cong ever called me a nigger." It was not a polished statement crafted by a publicist. It was a man saying, simply and clearly, the thing that was true. The war he was being asked to fight was happening 10,000 miles away, in a country that had nothing to do with him, for a government that had systematically denied the rights of people who looked like him for 300 years. The segregation that had defined his childhood in Louisville. The hotels that wouldn't take him when he won Olympic gold in 1960. The country that put a gold medal around a black man's neck and asked him to represent it, and then told him to go home to the section of the city where black people were permitted to live. He understood the transaction clearly, and he refused it. The consequences were immediate and total. Within hours of his refusal, the New York State Athletic Commission suspended his boxing license. Other states followed. The World Boxing Association stripped him of the heavyweight title he had held since stunning Sonny Liston in 1964. He was convicted of draft evasion and sentenced to 5 years in federal prison, a sentence he appealed all the way to the Supreme Court, which overturned it in 1971 by an 8-0 vote. But the appeal took years, and while it was pending, he could not fight. He was 25 years old when they took the title. He was 29 when he was allowed to fight again. 3.5 years, the precise years of a fighter's peak physical life, the years when the speed is sharpest and the body recovers fastest, and the mind is at its most unified with what the hands can do. They were gone. Nobody gave them back. He did not go to prison. The appeal process kept him free. But the freedom was a constrained thing. He could travel. He could speak. He could continue the public life that his refusal had made unavoidable. He gave lectures at universities. He debated, argued, defended his position against everyone who told him he was throwing everything away. He was offered deals, endorsements, exhibitions, compromises that would have softened the penalty without removing it. He refused them all. The press that had celebrated him when he beat Liston turned on him with a speed that revealed how conditional the celebration had always been. He was called a traitor, a coward, an ingrate. The irony that a man being praised for physical bravery was being called a coward, for moral courage was apparently invisible to those who wrote it. He lost an estimated $10 million in endorsements and fights. In an era when black athletes were expected to be grateful, quiet, and careful about which battles they picked, he had picked the largest battle available, and he had picked it loudly, in his own name, with his face visible and his voice clear. He came back. He beat Joe Frazier in Manila. He beat George Foreman in Kinshasa in the fight they called the Rumble in the Jungle, when he was 32 years old and the world had written him off, and he leaned against the ropes for 7 rounds and let Foreman hit him until Foreman had nothing left, and then he took him apart. He won the heavyweight title a 2nd time. He won it a 3rd time. He became something rarer than a champion. He became the argument that a man's principles are not a luxury he gets to keep, only when they cost nothing. The years that were taken from him cannot be measured in wins and losses. The fights he did not have are not on any record. The opponents he might have faced, the performances that might have existed, the specific evolution of a fighter at his absolute peak. All of it is absence now, the kind of absence that only becomes visible when you understand what was there before and what returned after. He said once that he had nothing to lose by standing up for what he believed, because the things that could be taken from him, the title, the license, the money, the years, were not the things he was living for. He died in 2016. The world stopped to acknowledge what he had been. He had told them, decades before they were ready to listen, exactly what he was. He was the heavyweight champion. He was a man who said no to an empire and meant it. He was the greatest. Not because he said so, because he proved it in the only ring that finally mattered.